Israel launches strikes on 20 military base sites in Iran. 19 killed in bus and tractor collision in Mexico. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Otto Othman and you're watching Malaysia, the whole world today. Now, Israel occupation forces launched strikes on military bases in Iran, hitting about 20 sites over several hours in Ilam, Kazakhstan and Tehran. The Iranian army confirmed 4 soldiers were killed after it said the attacks on Saturday targeted military bases but resulted in only limited damage. According to Iran's air defense headquarters, the aggressive action was successfully intercepted and countered by the country's integrated air defense system. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said Iran was entitled and obligated to defend itself against external aggressive acts after the attacks on its soil. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said he was deeply alarmed by the escalation of violence in the region, adding that all acts of escalation in West Asia are condemnable and must stop. His spokesman, Stefan Duracic, said in a statement that Guterres urgently reiterates his appeal to all parties to cease all military actions, including in Gaza and Lebanon, calling for maximum efforts to prevent an all-out regional war and return to the path of diplomacy. Qatar Ministry of Foreign Affairs also said that the attack was a blatant violation of Iran's sovereignty and a clear breach of international law. Meanwhile, dozens of Palestinians have been killed after an Israeli strike destroyed several buildings in a residential area of Beit Lahia in the besieged northern Gaza, with the health ministry describing it as a horrific massacre. According to witnesses and medical sources, at least 35 people were killed on Saturday evening, with dozens more wounded. Local media reports said civil defense crews were not able to reach the site because of Israeli fire, adding that multiple airstrikes hit the densely populated area with no warnings given. Palestinian Wafa news agency reported that many of the killed and injured are children, women, and the elderly. Rescue efforts are being hampered due to a lack of ambulances and civil defense services, as Israeli forces have blocked access to the area. Northern Gaza has been under a 3-week ground assault by Israeli forces, who are forcibly displacing tens of thousands of residents out of the area. The health ministry reported that Israeli military strikes on Jabalia, Beit Hanun, and Beit Lahia in northern Gaza have killed approximately 800 people over the course of a 3-week offensive. Indonesia condemns the Israeli military attack on Iran. The attack is a clear violation of international law and demonstrates Israel's Zionist disregard for humanitarian norms. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia stated that all parties should avoid any actions that could increase tension and lead to greater instability in the region. Indonesia also reiterated that Israel's illegal occupation of Palestinian territory remains the root cause of conflicts in the West Asia. Indonesia supports the establishment of an independent Palestinian state as part of a 2-state solution. Indonesia urges the UNSC to assume its responsibility under the UN Charter to stop all hostilities committed by Israel as soon as possible, including acts of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza and attacks against the United Nations interim force in Lebanon, UNIFIL. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia, Iraq and the United Arab Emirates condemned Israel's strikes on Iranian military sites early on Saturday. Israel's military said scores of jets had completed 3 waves of strikes before dawn against missile factories and other sites and warned its heavily armed arch foe not to hit back. Iran said its air defenses had successfully countered the attack, but some locations suffered limited damage. A semi-official Iranian news agency vowed a proportional reaction to the Israeli strikes. A social media post by Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry on X formerly known as Twitter, stated that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia expresses its condemnation and denunciation of the military targeting of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is a violation of its sovereignty and a violation of international laws and norms. In a statement on its website, the United Arab Emirates Ministry of Foreign Affairs wrote that the UAE expressed deep concern over the continued escalation and its repercussions on regional security and stability. Tensions between Iran and Israel have grown rapidly since 7th October last year. Voting commenced across Japan today for a general election as newly appointed Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba seeks a renewed mandate and heightened scrutiny over the ruling party's management of political funds. The Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, alongside its junior coalition partner, the Komeito Party, aims to maintain a majority in the 465-member House of Representatives. However, Kyodo News Agency reported media polls indicate that they face significant challenges. In this first general election since 2022, each voter cast 2 ballots, one for selecting a candidate in a single-seat constituency, and another to choose a party for proportional representation. Final election results are expected to be early Monday. Approximately 1,300 candidates are competing for the 465 seats, with 289 allocated to single-seat districts and 176 through proportional representation. Ishiba dissolved the lower house on October 9th, just 8 days after assuming office, vowing to restore public trust in politics and pursue key policy initiatives. Former United States First Lady Michelle Obama fired up a crowd in Michigan to vote for Kamala Harris, warning that a vote for Donald Trump was a vote against women's health. Speaking at a rally, Obama also drew distinctions between the two candidates on personal character and qualifications, saying there was a double standard in how Trump and Harris were being treated.
And finally, y'all, who could possibly think that this man would care more about our men and boys more than Kamala Harris? And while we're at it, I want to think about who do you think possibly would care more about our reproductive health?
She added Trump has failed to demonstrate understanding of its complexity and that his vows to rescind the Affordable Care Act passed during her husband's presidency would affect the entirety of women's health. The arena holds almost 6,000 people, but an overflow rink also was used for a few hundred other supporters who could not fit inside the arena. 19 people died and 6 others were injured when a bus crashed on a highway in Mexico's central state of Zacatecas on Saturday. Now, according to local authorities, the accident occurred in the early morning hours when the bus carrying the victims collided with the back of a tractor trailer carrying corn, which had come loose. Zacatecas Governor David Monreal earlier on Saturday had initially reported a preliminary death toll of 24 people, but the state Attorney General's office later revised the tally in a statement. The Attorney General's office said it was carrying out investigations to arrest the driver of the tractor trailer. A local government official said efforts were ongoing on Saturday to recover some of the bodies that had fallen into a ravine. Video footage showed rescue teams and security forces, including military personnel, securing the area while rescuers worked to recover the bodies. The bus was headed to Ciudad Juarez, a city on the U.S.-Mexico border in the state of Chihuahua. According to the Attorney General's office, the victims did not include migrants. Yahya Afridi takes oath as new Chief Justice of Pakistan. That and more coming up next. Justice Yahya Afridi on Saturday took oath as new Chief Justice of Pakistan in an oath-taking ceremony at the President's House in Islamabad. Now, President Asif Ali Zardari on Wednesday approved the selection of Afridi as the next Chief Justice, who was chosen through a new process that the government's opponents say is designed to undermine judicial independence. Previously, the most senior judge after the Chief Justice automatically became top judge, but the government and its allies amended the selection process in a hurried session of Parliament last Sunday, which lasted all night and concluded close to dawn on Monday. Under the old rule, Senior Judge Justice Mansour Ali Shah would have become the next chief. Law Minister Azam Tarar said Afridi replaced the outgoing Chief Justice, who retired on Friday for a 3-year term. The new Chief Justice faces the daunting task of delivering justice as Afridi steps into the role with the tag of being favored by the government and the powerful military establishment. Justice Afridi would be tested with several constitutional and political cases that he would have to tackle and decide on in the coming weeks and months. Shanghai police detained Halloween party goers yesterday, with some saying they were forced to remove their makeup at the police station. Now, Chinese social media posts said Halloween costume wearers who were detained were required to register their names, ID numbers, and phone numbers with police before being released. Last year, Halloween reveals thronged central Shanghai, with some dressed in costumes that poked fun at the Chinese stock market, youth unemployment, and the country's strict COVID-19 policy. This year, Shanghai's downtown areas had a heavy police presence, with some streets lined with crowd control barriers and rows of police vans parked nearby. One party-goer said she was turned away for wearing a headband with an apple on it. A business owner told she was asked to sign an agreement that her venue would not organize any costume activities to maintain good social order and public image. Georgia's most powerful man claimed victory in an election on Saturday, but the opposition called on the ruling party to admit defeat, setting the stage for a confrontation over the future of the South Caucasus country. Georgian Dream's billionaire founder Bidzina Ivanishvili, the opposition, the foreign diplomats had cast the election as a watershed moment that would decide if Georgia moves closer to the West or leans back towards Russia amid the war in Ukraine. The Electoral Commission said earlier official results with 70% of precincts counted showed the ruling party had won 53% of the vote. But deeply divided pro-Western opposition parties said that they had collectively clinched a majority. Rival exit polls gave sharply different projections for the election. The Georgian Dream supporting Imedi TV channel showed the ruling party winning 56%. However, exit polls by the pro-opposition channels showed major gains for the opposition parties. Georgia's four main opposition blocs are deeply divided, and it is unclear if they will be able to work together if they deprive Georgian Dream of its majority. A gang attack in Port-au-Prince forced residents to flee their homes on Saturday as the gangs operating in and around the Haitian capital ramped up attacks on areas they do not yet control. Now, smoke from gunfires billowed above the capital's Solino neighborhood, where fleeing residents strapped mattresses, furniture, cooking supplies, and other possessions to trucks. Others fled on foot, carrying what belongings they could. Gangs have been escalating their attacks on a number of towns in and around the capital, where much of the city and its suburbs are under control of various violent armed groups united under the common alliance known as Vive Ensemble. In a conference, UN's World Food Programme, WFP, said in Solino, thousands of residents have been displaced in recent days, including people who had previously been displaced from other neighborhoods. The total number of displaced people in Haiti has doubled in the past 3 months to almost 700,000. Haiti's security crisis continues to fuel the Caribbean nation's humanitarian disaster. The World Food Programme said on Friday that 5.4 million Haitians, or roughly half of the population, is suffering from acute hunger, with pockets of famine-level hunger being reported among internally displaced people. Still to come in sports, Al Hilal continues perfect run in Saudi Pro League. Al Hilal maintained their perfect start to the Saudi Pro League early this morning with a 2-0 victory at home to Al Tawun. Al Hilal now sit 3 points clear of the nearest challengers Al Ittihad at the top of the Saudi Pro League, while Al Tawun remain in 9th on 11 points. Alexander Mitrovic opened the scoring in the 15th minute to bring his account for the season to a league-leading 10 goals from 8 matches. Another Serb, Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, then doubled the host's advantage from a corner just after the hour mark. Despite coming off the bench in Al Hilal's 5-4 win away to Al Ain in the Asian Champions League on Monday, Neymar was left out of the matchday squad. The Brazilian had not featured for the Saudi champions in over a year due to a knee injury, with head coach Jorge Jesus meticulously managing his minutes as he recovers to fulfill fitness. Over in the United States, Jordi Alba scored on an exceptional strike from nearly 30 yards out early in the second half to lift Inter Miami to a 2-1 victory over Atlanta United in Game 1 of their MLS Eastern Conference quarterfinal playoff series at Fort Lauderdale, Florida on Saturday. Now, Lionel Messi picked up an assist on the 60th minute play, though Alba deserved the overwhelming majority of credit for an effort that beat goalkeeper Brad Guzan to the top right corner. Luis Suarez opened the scoring, hammering a low finish through Guzan from close range after an excellent combination between Alba and Diego Gomez played him into shooting position. Guzan made 9 saves to frustrate Miami in general and Messi in particular, keeping Atlanta within striking distance on a night when the hosts had the overwhelming majority of chances. Saba Lomjanidze leveled against the run of play in the 39th minute on one of the visitors' few surges forward. He ran on to Pedro Amador's diagonal entry pass and then drove his finish across goalie Drake Calendar's body and inside the far right post. With Atalanta dropping numbers deep into its own penalty area, Messi laid a ball to his left for Alba well above the penalty arc. Alba let fly with an emphatic left foot for his first goal in any competition since July 20th. The Ballon d'Or was front and center in the minds of Real Madrid fans, making their way to the first Clásico of the season on Saturday, with high hopes that Vinicius Jr. will take home the trophy and be named the best male player in the world. Fans filling into Santiago Bernabéu Stadium to see their side take on Barcelona said they were optimistic the Brazilian forward would take the prestigious award. Vinicius' remarkable performance at Real Madrid have put the 24-year-old forward as the odds-on favorite to claim his first Ballon d'Or when the award is announced in Paris on Monday. Vinicius scored 24 goals and provided 11 assists in 39 appearances that were key to help the Spanish Giants to a near-perfect 2023 to 2024 campaign, in which they reclaimed the La Liga title and grabbed a record-extending 15th European Cup. The Brazilian scored in the Champions League final and was named as the competition's best player. He is aiming to become the first Brazilian since Kaká in 2007 to win the award, and just the third person not named Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo to claim it since 2008. This will be the first time since 2003 in which neither Messi nor Ronaldo made the final 30-man list of nominees. Karen Khachanov upset second seed Alex de Minaur to reach the final of the Vienna Open on Saturday. Now, the 28-year-old Russian converted 66% break points while dropping just one service game of his own to earn an 8th straight win off the back of lifting his second tour-level title of the 2024 season in Almaty last week. Defeat for de Minaur, meanwhile, hampers his chances of qualifying for the ATP Finals for the first time in his career, with the 25-year-old Aussie trailing Russia's Meanwhile, in Switzerland, Giovanni Pericard advanced to the final of the ATP 500 Swiss indoors in Basel on Saturday with a 7-6-6-4 upset win over fourth seed Holger Rune. Now, the Frenchman is yet to drop a service game this week and won 87% of the points behind his first serve, including 17 aces against his fellow 21-year-old. The win sees Pericard improve to 4-1 against top 20 opponents and reach his second career tour-level final, having lifted a maiden ATP crown in Lyon in May. Awaiting Pericard is Sunday's final in 6-seed Ben Shelton after the 21-year-old American overcame 20-year-old Arthur Fils with Saturday's slate, featuring semi-finalists all born in the 2000s for the first time ever at an ATP Tour event. Pericard defeated Shelton 6-3, 7-6 in their only previous encounter in the first round of the Queen's Club Champions in June. After beginning the season outside the top 200, the Frenchman is up to number 37 in the ATP Live rankings this week, setting him up for a career high. He entered the week at number 50 in the ATP rankings. Ducati's Anyanya Bastianini won the sprint at the Thailand Grand Prix on Saturday to claim his second sprint victory of the season, ahead of World Championship leader Jorge Martin and defending champion Francesco Bagnaia. Now, Martin's second place allowed him to narrowly increase his lead over pole sitter Bagnaia in the championship by 2 points to 22, heading into Sunday's race. Martin nearly had a dream start when he rocketed into the lead for a split second going into the first turn, but his aggression cost him as he drifted wide and fell to fifth, while Bastianini moved up to the front ahead of teammate Bagnaia. Martin gradually moved back up to fourth and overtook Gresini racing rider Marc Marquez to move in behind Bagnaia. With Martin hot on his heels, Bagnaia did his best to hold on, but he was eventually chased down in the seventh lap. Though his Pramac racing rival risked incurring a long lap penalty after coming within centimeters of exceeding track limits. Neither of the two title rivals ever looked close to denying Bastianini the victory as the Italian built up a comfortable lead and crossed the line well ahead of Martin. The penultimate race of the season takes place in Malaysia next weekend, with the season coming to a close in Valencia 2 weeks later. France's biggest video game trade show kicks off in Versailles. Up next in our Offbeat segment. France's biggest video game trade show opened its doors at the Porte de Versailles Exhibition Center in Paris on Wednesday and will close them again on Sunday. For this year's edition, the video game trade show is expecting around 200,000 people to try out the latest releases, preview unreleased titles, and take part in a variety of activities organized at the different stands. The main attraction of the Paris Games Week is the opportunity to form an opinion on games, which at €80 each, in some cases, can represent a real budget. The biggest contingent is to be found on the stands of the major publishers and manufacturers. Impossible to miss, they are often the most imposing and colorful. Visitors would be able to try their hands at recently released top titles such as Astro Bot, Star Wars Outlaws, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, or the latest Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which, while no longer drawing the crowds it did a few years ago, remains one of the show's most popular points of interest.
Sur la Paris Games Week, donc beaucoup de nouveautés, et la particularité de la Paris Games Week, ça a toujours été son ADN, la possibilité de tester les jeux vraiment manette en main, beaucoup de positions de jeu partout dans le salon pour que nos visiteurs, nos visiteuses puissent vraiment essayer les jeux. C'est ça le salon qu'on veut, un salon très expérientiel où on vient pas seulement voir des beaux décors, on vient tester les jeux pour avoir envie peut-être de les acheter pour Noël.
For the 9th consecutive year, the General Cemetery of La Paz transformed into an open-air canvas thanks to the Natinta Art Festival. Natinta, a wordplay between the Spanish word of ink and the name of the Bolivian tradition of natitas, brings national and foreign arts to decorate the walls of the cemetery. For some Bolivian artists, the experience allowed them to pay tribute to their relatives who already passed away.
Un festival único a nivel mundial que se pinta dentro de un cementerio. Fuera de eso, las particularidades específicas del Cementerio de La Paz son realmente únicas. La festividad de las ñatitas que se tiene aquí, que es el guiño que se ha hecho al nombre del festival, ¿no? Que es ñatinta, en honor a esta festividad, ¿no? Tan particular. Entonces todo esto resulta como una especie de shock cultural, ¿no? Para los participantes, más que nada para los que en otras versiones han podido llegar desde Europa, por ejemplo.
Artists are also encouraged to explore the traditions, history, and iconography elements associated with Indian Day of the Dead traditions and celebrations. Hundreds of zombies took over the streets of Santiago last Sunday to take part in the annual Zombie Walk. Blood-drenched zombies, Beetlejuice characters, and even a furry dog participated in the parade. Zombie walkers were accompanied by the horror truck, a vehicle playing music along their route. The Zombie Walk phenomenon began in Sacramento, California, back in 2001. Since then, the event has spread to major cities around the world, including New York, Buenos Aires, Bogota, Singapore, Sao Paulo, and Frankfurt.
Normalmente hago cosplay, o sea, es un hobby, la verdad. Y sí, casi he venido ya como 3, 4 años a la Zombie Walk.
Me encanta que se haga porque así me doy cuenta que no soy el único que le gusta a los zombies, así que eso es agradable.
Melaksanakan misi, mempertahan maruah, mencipta secara setia, bertemu, mengatakan cinta dengan pasangan, membuat peluang bersegakan, satu perjuangan, satu sorakan yang direncana di dada dalam memburu takkan keraguan, kekuatan bicara.
Well, that wraps up World Today this time around. In our top story, Israel launches strikes on 20 military base sites in Iran. Till next time, I'm Otto Othman, Malaysia Madani. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks for watching.